Hello, my name is Carol May Whittick. I support women to bloom in midlife with creativity and spiritual life coaching. And I'm your host of Her Conversations, Tools for the Awakening. Her is an acronym for Higher Energetic Resonance. This is the optimal state to embody in order to attract our highest desires. What is the awakening? This is the moment in time when humanity rises up out of the darkness. Who is awakening? Each one of us present on earth today, reclaiming our sovereignty, seeking greater possibilities in our reality and looking for solutions. We know being awakened is not a lofty ideal but a necessity. If we can transform ourselves, we can change the world. Guests on Her Conversations will speak to your spirituality, sensuality and soul. Listen to their stories and hear how they are in service to the world. Let their words and these conversations embolden and inspire you. Before going into this episode, I would like to invite you to download a gift that I have for you, which is a midlife meditation. I've created this midlife meditation to remind you that your life is a precious gift and reaching midlife is a milestone worth celebrating and marking the start of an exciting new chapter for you. Also, if you haven't, please tune in to Her Inspirations, which is the sister podcast to this title. In each solo episode, I aim to inspire my midlife sisters to recognize and embrace the wisdom of our experience and allow this next season of our life to be the most free and fruitful, because midlife is your time to bloom. Links to all of those are in the show notes. My guest on this week's episode is Annie Bourke. She's an animal-human relationship enricher. She has telepathic conversations with animals living and in spirit to answer their human parents' questions and provide clarity and peace of mind. She's also published her third book, Crossing the Bridge to Animal Consciousness, Animal Soulology. During our conversation, Annie shares about the soul connections owners have with animals, their possible past life human or animal lifetimes, and how animals can accelerate our consciousness expansion and their purpose to help humans on their spiritual journeys. So as always, I begin by asking my guest, Her is an acronym for Higher Energetic Resonance. When do you feel that higher energetic resonance?
And I think that most that I feel that is when I'm working with high vibrational crystals. I love working with the frequency of crystals. They all vibrate at different frequencies to help us on a physical, spiritual, emotional, mental level. And to me, it's just wonderful understanding how they can help us, but also help our animals.
Perfect. And before we go deeper into our conversation, Annie, please share a little bit about yourself and your story and how you got to do the work that you're doing today.
Thank you. I've always had an affinity with animals from when I was about 18 months old, which I can remember back to. And although I've worked in a government job with health background for a number of years, working with animals is something that's always given me a lot of joy, and I love being an advocate for them and finding out more about them. So over 13 years ago, I had one of my little girl cats suddenly pass away after a short illness, and it made me feel as though I'd missed the opportunity to get to know her on a different level because I didn't know how to talk to her. And I'd always felt that my cats could understand me, and I wished that I could understand back what they were trying to tell me. And I actually used to say to them verbally, I wish I could speak cat. So this little ginger girl is the one who inspired me to look for an animal communication course. And I found one online, and there was an image of a ginger cat on the homepage who looked very like her. So I thought, wow, this is no coincidence. This is a sign. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. And that's just started me on this whole new trajectory now of communicating with animals, living and in spirit, but also now mentoring animal parents and animal professionals so that they too can talk telepathically with their own animals. And it just totally changes the dynamics of a relationship when you can actually have profound two-way conversations with them. And that's what I just love doing. So I call myself the animal-human relationship enricher.
Mm-hmm.
because whether I'm answering questions on behalf of an animal parent or I'm mentoring them so they can ask their own questions, it really makes a profound difference for our animals, and that's what I want to do.
So what would you say is the main disconnect between humans and animals in general?
From a number of people that I've spoken with, lots of people don't understand that animals actually understand everything that we're saying. So they're actually highly intelligent and intuitive souls who are here in animal bodies. And people just think, oh, it's a pet or it's a dumb animal. And that's nowhere near the truth. They have really extensive vocabularies. And when I do the mentorship program, we do a number of live exercises with the animals. The words that they come out with to answer the questions are just incredible. And some of them use words that I've never heard of before, but when I look them up, they're in the dictionary. And so I now believe that some of these animals have had multiple lifetimes in the past. And so they're familiar with the words that were being used in the eras that they lived, but we don't use them commonly now. And I had an example. One of my clients was working with one of my cats because they didn't have domestic animals of their own to practice with. And my client had to send my cat a word and then ask my cat to send back the word that she received. My client sent the word transform. So I'm waiting for them to say that my cat sent back the word transform. She sent back the word transmogrify. Now, to my knowledge, I've never said that word in front of her, so I was really curious how she knew it. But when I looked it up, it means to transform in a surprising or magical manner. So she obviously knew the word that was sent to her, but she was upping the ante by sending us back a word that means the same thing, but it's different. So I actually said to her, how did you know that word? Because you haven't heard it from me. And she told me that she'd been an English tutor, human in a former lifetime, and that was a word that she was familiar with. So it's just opened up this whole fascinating world for me and totally changed my understanding of reality, knowing that we've had past lives with our animals, and they may have been a human with us, they may have been an animal with us. Our current animal may have been our childhood pet who's reincarnated back to have another lifetime with us. And for me personally, knowing that our animals can reincarnate totally changes the grief process. And I didn't know it could happen until one of my cats, who was one of my original animal communicator teachers, suddenly passed away one morning. And it was a huge shock because she wasn't very old and she had no health issues. And suddenly she was gone. And I just thought, what's happening? But fortunately, I knew I'd be able to talk with her on the other side when she was ready to talk to me. And so I said to her, what did you do that for? And she said, oh, I needed a new body. Like, doesn't everybody else do that? And I thought, what? And then she told me to stop being so sentimental and that she was coming back. And because she'd been so accurate with everything she'd been teaching me, I had to trust her. So it was a time for me to trust her. And my boy cats weren't pining. They weren't off their food. She'd actually told them in advance what she was going to do. And they told me it was a temporary reprieve till she was back to boss them around again. And she just told me what she was going to look like. She came back. And it's so interesting when they come back because they know everyone in the house, they know the other animals, they know where to sleep, they know where the food's served. And it's though they've just gone away on this total body makeover holiday and then they come back. And it may be your oldest animal who now comes back as the youngest animal in the family. So there may be a little bit of jostling in the hierarchy to see who's really the boss. But they just all adapt. And so the animal who comes back has to adapt to being in a different body. And so particularly if they were very ill before they passed away or not very mobile, it feels really weird suddenly being in this body where you've got lots of freedom and you can run and jump and explore and enjoy life. And animals rely very heavily on scent. So when they come back to you in their new body, your other animals don't recognise them because they don't recognise the scent. They physically look different. And they have a different voice when they communicate with them telepathically. So they have to recognise them on a soul level. And it normally takes about 48 hours, and then everybody works out who everyone is and life goes on. And for you as the animal parent, you feel something on a heart level or a soul level when you get to hold your animal again. Sometimes they look identical, sometimes they're completely different, but there will be things that you recognise about them. And it is such a gift to have another lifetime with them. And so many bereaved animal parents ask me to ask their animals, do you know how much I love you? Do you know how much I miss you? Do you know what I'd give to be able to hug you one more time? And if the animal knows it's their destiny to come back, they can tell me all the details so that the parents can find them, and then they're reunited with them again. And that's just the most amazing experience that I've had with animals and the most incredible concept that they've taught me.
Beautiful sharing. Thank you. I wanted to know what would you say is the biggest message that animals want to give humans?
Yeah, look, there's on a few different layers. First of all, animals would love their humans to know that they do understand everything that they're saying, and they love when their humans actually have a verbal conversation with them, even though they can't understand what their animal's saying back. The animals love hearing what's going on in your world, so please talk to them verbally. Telling them you love them and you're grateful that they're with you really empowers them. They know that you love them, but hearing you saying it verbally, they're very sensitive to the frequencies of words, and that's really powerful for you to tell them that you love them. So they want you to know that. They want you to know that there's no coincidence that they're with you. There will be a specific purpose. And that's one of the things I love finding out in a conversation as well, is why is your animal with you? So sometimes the soul in that animal is a soul that you've had a relationship with before, either in this lifetime or the past. And sometimes our animals are here with specific roles they take on with us. So some of them are here to teach us, some of them are here to help heal us, and some of them are here to help guard us. And then in addition to all of that, they also have a life purpose like we do, and they have soul lessons to learn like we do. So some of them are here to help us with our lessons and our mission, and some of them come to us so that we can help them. But as my conversations with them have gone on, it's become obvious that there's deeper spiritual reasons that our animals are with us. And so particularly writing my recent book, one of my cats told me that animals can actually help us accelerate our consciousness expansion. So they're here to help us on our spiritual journeys. And so it's learning to look at your animal and know that they're more than just a pet, and that there is a purpose for them being with you. They do lots of things behind the scenes to help us heal, but there's so much more that they can offer us. And once we can communicate with them and understand more about them, it changes the relationship we have with them. So it's much deeper for us and for them to know why we're together.
I don't think I told you before. Maybe I didn't, but I wrote it down here. My Doberman. Like, there's a reason why. So I've always wanted to have a Doberman. I've got very specific what color, what sex, what I'm going to call her. But I've just living in London, living in apartments, traveling, everything like that. It's just never been conducive to have, you know, the home that I would like to have. I don't want to like shove a dog, a Doberman dog, into anywhere other than somewhere that is going to be a beautiful home. But even though I haven't met this pet yet, this has been something that I've been thinking about since my 20s, this dog. You know, so it's not, you know, this is a dog that's been with me in the ethers for 30 years now. And I'm very, very particular about this dog as well. And you know, if someone gave me another dog and said, can you look after, I'd be fine. But there's something about this dog that I haven't met yet that I really know that one day I will meet. I call him my doctor in my head, you know. See, you know, I'm like a pet person already. But I've never met her as yet. I've seen other dogs similar. I've seen pictures of dogs similar. But what is that? Maybe you have an idea of what that might be. But I've,
Yes, I
you
was.
know, yeah, I even wanted to add to that. Sorry to cut you, Annie. It's like I used to live where I used to live in London. I live a little bit just on the outskirts now. There was a really big park that I loved, and I'd go for a walk in the morning. And if I wasn't walking my flatmate's dog, she had like a Labrapoodle. Labrapoodle, is that what you call them?
Labradoodle.
Labradoodle, big
Yeah.
poodle, yeah. Um, so if I wasn't walking her and I was walking on my own, I'd still be walking my dog in my mind, you know, because everyone was there walking their dog in the morning, and I'd be like, one day I'll be walking my dog. So tell me about this phantom dog that I've had with me for like practically 30 years.
I was actually going buzzy when you were talking about her. So that's my soul telling me that, yes, there is a soul connection there. So whether that's an animal that you had in your early childhood who's going to come back to you in a dog body and have another lifetime with you, or whether it's a human or an animal that you've had a life with in your past. And to me, it's just fascinating. And I know some of this content will be new for some of your listeners. So I do ask that you listen with an open heart and open mind, because I knew nothing about any of this 13 years ago. It's all what I've learnt since I'm doing this work. But the soul who is in your animal now can be a human or an animal soul that you've known in this lifetime. So it can be a child who's passed away early, or it might be a parent or a grandparent who's passed, who chooses to come back in an animal body to have another lifetime with you. Or it may be an animal or a human that you've had a relationship with in past lives. So again, children, partners, parents, grandparents, or animals. And some of our animals have been different animals in past lives. So I spoke with a cat who told me that he'd actually, and showed me with a little video snippet, because they can send visual images as well, that he'd been a black and pink pig with his human dad in the Midwest Americas in the 1800s. And the animals know their past lives. They can recall them really easily. We can't. But I always research the facts that they tell me just to make sure that it all makes sense. And yes, the Midwest Americas opened up in the 1800s, and pig farming was one of the agricultural practices. And when I told the cat's dad this, he just said, my parents were pig farmers. And like, there's all these little things that just match up that you just can't rationally explain. And the animals can recall that. And even when they reincarnate, that amazes me as well, because they can tell me when they're in spirit if it's their destiny to come back. And then they can tell me what species, what gender, what colour, sometimes a specific rescue agency they're going to be, what age they might be. I don't understand how they can tell me that in advance. So, for instance, I've just had a conversation with a dog who's passed away, a male dog, who's told me that he's coming back as a female dog, and mum will find him in January. Like, that's several months out. How does he know that that body is going to be available for him to swap into and to give me the details about it? I don't know. All I can do is just pass on the messages that I receive. So with you, that dog may be a human or an animal soul that you've got a very strong, powerful connection with, and you just know. I did the same thing when I got my last cat. I felt that I had to get a red ginger boy cat. I didn't know why, but it was something that I just knew. And there is a spiritual gift we have called claircognizance, where you just know things without rationally knowing why you know things. So I knew that I needed this red boy and that he was going to, complete the animal family at the time. You know that you need this specific female Doberman. You don't know why you know it, but you know it. So you do have to trust your intuition. It's something very powerful for you. You've had that for 30 years. So you just have to trust that you've been given that information for a reason, and it's going to happen when circumstances line up. And our animals understand that. They know they're keen to come back to us as soon as they can, but they know sometimes we may not be emotionally ready, we might not be financially ready, we might have had to move somewhere where we're not allowed to have animals. So they understand that they have to wait, but they're very keen to reunite with us. So it'll be interesting when you get your Doberman, what you feel you recognise in her, because if it's a soul that you've known, there will be something that you recognise. And I've had people tell me that. I had someone recently say, I've had 10 dogs. Why is this one so different? And people describe their animals now as their soul dog or their heart dog or their heart horse. So subconsciously, the language they're using means they understand that there is this soul connection, but consciously they don't know why. And again, we can ask in a question, what is our soul connection? What details of past lives we've had can you share with me? And then they can explain what's happening. And it makes so much more sense when you know that you've had a relationship with them and you can feel that love connection. And that's what's also exciting for me, that when our animals pass away, a lot of people going through the grief process feel that, okay, the physical presence has gone, that's the end of the relationship, and that really affects them. But what the animals have taught me is that, yes, the physical body no longer exists, but the soul does. And I connect with the animals in spirit through their soul frequency or their soul energy. And we can always connect with them. It doesn't matter how long ago they passed away. And I think that's really powerful for grieving people to know that we can still maintain that connection with our animals through a conversation. And then if we know they're coming back, then that totally changes the grief process as well, because you know that they're going to come back, they're going to look different, sound different, smell different, but you'll know that they're back with you and you get to have another lifetime with you. And that's really healing for you as the grieving parent, but also healing for your animal, because they grieve on the other side. They don't want to leave us, and they know that we're grieving. And so it's wonderful that they have that opportunity to come back as well.
I'll let you know. And I will let you know as well.
Yeah, no, look, I'm really keen, and you can have a conversation and find out whose soul is in the animal. And sometimes our animals are very vocal because they want us to know who they are. And it's frustrating for them because we haven't recognised who they are. And then once we know, then they can calm down, mission accomplished, and they can get on and enjoy having another lifetime with you.
Yeah. I've always thought I kind of look like a brown Doberman.
I wouldn't say that, but there will be something specific why you've picked that. So whether you've had a Doberman in the past or whether
not
you
in this
just
lifetime.
know intuitively that is the body, that this special soul needs to come into you, to come back to you. I can't tell you at the moment what that relationship is. All I know is that there is some connection there, and that's why you feel this so deeply.
Yeah, I'm getting closer because I'm not right in the city. I'm more on the edge now, and there's way more space and everything like that. This particular location isn't it, because pets aren't allowed, but the next one is going to be closer to it. I can feel it, and that's not too long away. So yeah,
I'm going buzzy, so yes, confirmation that it's that's going to happen.
I've just felt it more, that it's a closer place as well, because moving out of the city was moving to the edge of the city, because I'm still technically in it, but it was like, okay, this is more the area now, and there's just so much green and parks and everything around here. It's just like the perfect dog owning area. Even when I was in London, that area was fine, but that I was living where I was living, my who I was living with, she had her dog, so there was no room for another one. And also I was traveling a lot and everything like that. There was no way that I could have a dog, and look after a dog the way that I'd want to. So
you can also just try and energetically connect with that soul who's going to come into the dog, and just say, look, I'd love you to come through in a dream or a meditation and let me know a bit more about you, and just see if you get any information coming through that way as well in advance, because that will just help that connection strengthen as well.
I like that. I put down here non-domestic animals ? So do you
Yes, so I talked
domestics?
telepathic communication is something that all animals understand. And so I actually, in my mentorship program, work with people and 2 domestic animals. And if they don't have 2, then they can work with my cats, who have now worked with a number of clients. And then once you can do that, we also include mediumship conversations in the program, so you can talk to your animals in spirit. And then once you've mastered all the different ways they send messages, then you can talk to any animal anywhere, whether they're domestic or wild. So I spend a lot of time in zoos talking to the animals, because they don't have a lot of people talking to them. And you can find out what's going on. Like if they've got aches or pains, then I can pass that information on to their keepers, who are quite receptive to getting that. One of the animals I spoke to was very cold in their enclosure, and it's really easy for someone just to turn this thermostat up in an area and make them more comfortable. So it's just fascinating finding out what they want to know. I spoke to a number of representatives from different animal species when I wrote my first book, because I wanted to find out what was really happening in the wild to them and write their stories in their words, not mine. So that was really interesting, like tuning into a group of cheetahs and just introducing myself and just saying, look, I'm writing this book. I'd love to write a little story about what's happening for you as cheetahs. Would one of you like to come forward and represent you and answer my questions? And I did that with a number of different species, and they were very happy to do that. I've gone to lots of different zoos and sanctuaries around the world, even down to see the penguins in Antarctica, and they all understand what you're saying. And it's just really wonderful having the interactions with them. They know exactly who's talking to them. I was doing a tour in the UK and I went to Chester Zoo, and it was a really hot day and all the lions were lying down in the shade, and there were lots of school kids there having excursions, and all these kids are roaring at the lions and telling them to wake up, and the lions are just totally ignoring them. And so after all the kids had moved away, I just went closer over to the fence and I just tuned in telepathically with the male and explained that I was there from Australia and I'd really love to see him and take his photo if he would mind just sitting up for a few minutes so I could do that. The next minute he sits up and he's looking directly at me, so he knew exactly who was talking to him. And the lady standing next to me said, he's looking right at you. And I said, yes, I know, I asked him to. And he just gave me a really funny look. But he just posed beautifully for me. And when I'd finished taking the photos, I said, thank you. And he just lay down again and went back to sleep again. But it's just lovely that you can have these conversations with them. Some of them are just so wise, the information that they're sharing with you. You can learn so much from them. I met a very wise white lion when I was in Africa, and I said to him, I'm sending you love. So energetically, I was sending him love. And he said to me, I'm returning that to you threefold. The energy and the heat that I felt in my heart when he sent that energy back to me was just amazing. And I wasn't expecting him to do that, but that was just so powerful. What made the session even more profound was that he was actually talking to a number of people in our group telepathically at the same time on different subjects. So that's how advanced animal communication is, that they don't just have to have a one-on-one conversation. They're very gifted at communication. So it's not just their vocabularies and what they understand about the history of the world. There's so much more that they can teach us if we just have the chance to sit down and connect in with them and find out what they want to tell us.
Wow, I love that. So tell me about the books that you've written.
Okay, so my first book was called The Bridge to Animal Consciousness. And this is really part of my legacy and part of my mission, because I want to raise global awareness about the importance of animals. So I want people to understand that they're with them for a reason. There's no coincidence an animal comes into your life. They do understand everything you say. They're highly intelligent and intuitive. They feel emotions just like we do. And so this book was an opportunity to share a number of those different things. I talk about the benefits of animal communication and some of the profound conversations I've had with domestic animals and also wild animals like lions, and helping people to understand that animals are here on a soul journey, just like we are. So, to my knowledge, animals are souls that have decided to incarnate in an animal body for this lifetime. They may have been human or animals in their previous lifetimes. We're here now as humans, souls in a human body, having a lifetime, and we may have been animals or humans in past lives as well. So, they're really teaching me that we're souls. We're all here to learn and grow and evolve as part of our soul development. And that's one of the most interesting things that they've been teaching me, that there's so much wisdom that they know that they can share with us and help us accelerate our soul journey. And some of the information, one of my cats dictated the last chapter of my recent book and told me a lot of things I'd never heard of before. And he was very well aware of what needed to be in the book to help activate people. So that was my first book. My second book is called Evolving Hearts and Souls, The Guide to Spiritual Awakening. And when I had my spiritual awakening, I didn't know that's what was happening. I didn't know that you could have a spiritual awakening. I'd never read anything about it. But my gift of clairvoyance just suddenly switched on. And I'd be having a conversation with someone like you, and I'd just get all these little glimpses of your past and then also see glimpses of your future. And I'm thinking, what is this? And more importantly, what am I supposed to do with it? And at the time, New Age things weren't really in or accepted. And I spoke to a few people about it and they just said, oh, no, don't dabble in that. So I stopped for years. And then a very intuitive friend found a psychic development course, and she just said, oh, I thought you might be interested in this. So I went along and my clairvoyance switched on, healing switched on, lots of things happened. And so I've just been on this amazing journey since of discovering more about our spiritual purpose. And so I wanted to write a book because I couldn't find anything when I was waking up to help me. And I want to help other people know that what they're experiencing is normal. They're not going crazy when really weird things start to happen. So it's an introduction to like the energetic body, the chakras, healing, the importance of meditation, meeting your spirit guides, lots of different things that people will encounter on their journeys, just so it makes more sense and they can navigate what's happening with more confidence. And then my recent book is the sequel to my first book, and it's called Crossing the Bridge to Animal Consciousness, Animal Soulology, which is a word that I made up, just to describe all the aspects about their soul journeys to help people understand. And I particularly wrote this to support bereaved animal parents because I want them to have hope and to know what happens with the animal souls. So there's stories about how animals can come back and visit us energetically. And a lot of people have thought they've gone crazy when they've seen their animal running up and down the corridor, but it's their animal. Somehow they can put on a temporary physical body so that we recognise them and we can be comforted by the fact that they come back. My girl cat, when she came back, would meow very loudly so I'd hear her and know that she was there. My boy cat, he still comes back and plays with my hair because that's what he did when he was little. He used to sleep on my pillow and gently massage my hair through the night. So it gives us a lot of comfort to have them coming back for these visits, and it also gives them comfort coming back. So if anyone's listening, your living animal suddenly starts staring at the wall intently and you can't see anything, it's likely that you've got an animal in spirit visiting you because they're very sensitive to the frequencies of their energies. And it's lovely they can do that. And then I've got lots of real life stories of animal reincarnation. So following the journeys of the families, moving from heartbreak to happiness when we find out that their animal is reincarnating, and we do the detective work and find them and they come home. And some of those stories just defy logic. One of the animals who is in spirit is a Saint Bernard, and he originally was going to come back as a female dog, but unfortunately that didn't go ahead. And sometimes it happens that things change outside our animal's control. So he then told his mum he was going to come back as a Saint Bernard rescue puppy, and he'd be about 3 months old, and mum would find him within the month. And she found this absolutely gorgeous puppy. She showed me the photo. I checked with the dog, and yes, that was the body his soul was going to swap into. So Dad had to fly halfway across America to adopt the dog and bring him home. The first night they stayed in a motel, and this little puppy slept in the same pose that he did last time, which was really reassuring for the family. Came home and started sleeping in the same place as he used to, and he's exhibiting lots of behaviours of last time. And Mum was really curious just to find out about his background, so she had a genetic test done, and it turns out he's got 0% Saint Bernard genes, but he looks like a Saint Bernard. He's grown up now. He's a huge dog, looking very like last time. But how smart of him to say to look for a Saint Bernard puppy, because he knew that's how Mum would find him in this new body. So these stories are just incredible, but they give people so much hope. You know, that lady had to wait 6 years to be reunited with her animal. Most people, it's a lot quicker. There's so many circumstances that affect the reunions. But to me, it's just a wonderful thing that we can have more lifetimes with our animals. And so I think on a spiritual level, we must have some long soul contract with them, that we keep having multiple lifetimes with them, and they keep coming back to help support us on our life journeys. And that's just beautiful.
There's a couple of things that I want to ask you. We've been talking about relationships with animals that are beautiful and go well. We know that there are some people that really mistreat their animals. What is happening there? You know, I can't comprehend why you would, but there are people that find it that they can do that. What is that about?
I don't know. I think it's just they don't understand that animals are very precious souls in an animal body, and they don't respect them and don't value them. And yes, I know it's very upsetting, the stories that we see and hear about all sorts of things that can happen to those animals. It's interesting because a lot of people do adopt rescue animals, and some of them are still dealing with the emotional and psychological trauma of what they experience. So if they experience physical harm, that can heal, but we can't tell what's happening on the inside. And again, that's something that we can find out with a conversation. They don't necessarily want to talk about what happened because they've come a distance on their healing journey, and I respect if they don't want to talk about that, but they can tell us what's happening so that we can be more sensitive and more patient and find out what we can do to help them. And fortunately, there are healing modalities available now to help animals with emotional trauma. And I've spoken to a horse who experienced a lot of trauma when he was about 2, and he had a couple of these healing modality sessions. And he said to me afterwards he wasn't aware what a burden he was carrying until all of those trapped emotions were released. And he was a completely different horse afterwards. And it's hard for us because we want to love an animal and give them, you know, the quality life and love and security of a home that they may not have experienced with another human the first time around. But from the outside, we don't know what they're dealing with. And that's, again, the power of the conversation, that we can find out more what we can do to help them feel more settled and adjusting into a new home. They have to learn to trust you as well. And I'm in awe of the fact of, you know, some of what they've experienced, that they can let that go and be willing to love another family and receive love as well.
Oh, oh dear. And then also I wanted to ask about strays. I have people that I know in Turkey where they're kind of almost overrun by many stray animals.
I've actually been to Turkey and seen lots of cats there, and it's just wonderful that I don't know why they have so many strays, but it's wonderful that the communities are so dedicated to looking after them. So they feed them and look after them, but they're just part of the community and people just accept them. My second cat was a kitten who got dumped at a shopping centre. So technically a stray, and she stayed with me for 19 years. So there's so much joy and love you can get from adopting a stray animal or an abandoned animal. You know, the feelings they must have of being separated from their family, not knowing who's going to look after them, not knowing where their next meal is coming from. It's very unsettling for them to feel that sense of abandonment and low worth. And yes, they genuinely can feel those emotions just like humans because of what they've experienced. But by adopting opening up our hearts and opening up our homes to look after them, that makes such a difference for them. And yes, we can only help one animal at a time, but to that animal, it makes a huge difference that they get to experience a loving lifetime and be able to trust the humans. And then we get so much benefit from that relationship. Yes, they help us to experience unconditional love. A big part of what animals do is help us to evolve our hearts as part of our spiritual journey. But they can do lots to help lower our blood pressure. They can improve the production of our happy hormones, reduce our stress levels. They also help with bone healing, and I discovered that when I fractured my shoulder. One of my cats, who has the loudest purr, just spontaneously came and sat right next to my shoulder and purred and purred and purred. I didn't ask her to, she just did it spontaneously. And I got a lot of movement back very quickly, which surprised my surgeon. So there's all these things they can do because they understand us. They're sensitive to our frequencies. They can tell when we're getting ill. They can read our moods. And so they can deliberately do funny things to make us laugh and change the mood. And they can spend more time with us when we're not well, to help us heal too, because to them, we are their world. So they have a vested interest in making sure that we're okay. And they just love having the one-on-one time with us, hearing what's happening in our life. And it doesn't matter if you're washing up or hanging out the washing or folding clothes. I've had one of my cats say to me, I just want to be involved. Like they're just so curious about what's going on. And, they listen to us and all our problems. They're non-judgmental. They don't care what our hair looks like or what our clothes are like or who our friends are. They just love us and want the best for us. And it's just wonderful to have that support there in those animals and not take them for granted.
Beautiful. Well, I hope it stays all right because friend that I have out there was just saying the government's kind of coming after them a little bit. So that we don't want that to happen to them. But yeah, it's such a fascinating conversation. So where do you see your work evolving to, or where would you like it to evolve to?
Yeah, look, there's so many different things I'm interested in because I'm very interested in natural healing, which is why I've studied Reiki and crystal therapy and clinical aromatherapy. And I use those to support the well-being of animals and humans, so I can do distance healing sessions for people. I'm really passionate about mentoring people to learn telepathic communication so they can talk with their own animals, because that's the most empowering thing for animals. I do free masterclasses every month online for animal parents about all sorts of different topics so that they can understand their animals on a deeper level. I've also got to write the third book in the trilogy about bridging animal consciousness, and I don't know what that's going to be about yet. I haven't been told, so that's on the cards as well. There's a few different products that I'd like to make to support animals and wisdom and spiritual development. So lots of different directions that I want to go in. My ultimate big vision is to open up an animal sanctuary for rescue animals and have people coming to stay so they can learn energetic healing and also learn telepathic animal communication. So the animals are going to benefit from that, and so will the humans. So that's my big picture. And I know there's a number of people at the moment who are running rescue facilities, but struggling with finances. So it may be that it ends up being a collaboration with a number of different partners on a property somewhere. I don't know, but like you, I've had that particular vision for a number of years, and it just hasn't come into physical reality yet. But that's my ultimate goal, is to have the rescue centre work with the animals and work with the humans and make a difference on a different level for animals.
Good for you. Good for you. I like the idea of having a long-term vision, you know, even like 30, I'm like 30, I'm like, how long have I been thinking about this dog? It's like 30, because I remember telling someone about it, like an old boyfriend, and this was back when I was in my 20s. And I knew exactly what she looked like then. And it just hasn't been right. You know, I've been moving around, or I've been living in London apartments. It's not the right place to have a dog. So now that I'm here, I'm like, okay, this feels like the best place. Rooted now's to find the property where that will take place. But the minute I do, trust me, I will be back in contact with you. I don't, you know, I might not speak to everyone that I have on the podcast all the time, but I always remember the threads of the conversations as well. And I will, maybe you can dig into the soul of that particular animal.
Yeah, finding out why they've had to come back to be with you.
Yeah.
And it's taken a long time to come back, but there will be a reason for that as well. So, and as I said, that's what I love finding out, that it's, you know, how the souls are connected and why they're coming back. What is that dog going to do for you in the next phase of your life that you haven't needed the support for up till now? And how is that going to change your life, having her there for the next phase of your life? It's just really interesting.
I'm interested. I can't wait to
the hidden world of animals. Look, it just amazes me. Like, I learn from every conversation. I don't understand everything about how they know what they know. I just have to trust that they're telling me what I need to know at the moment. And when I need to know more, I will know more. Like, I didn't know about reincarnation when I started doing conversations. Now I do. There will be other concepts that they will be teaching me about in the future that I've got no idea about now. But I just know now that I just have to trust the animals, know they can tell me things, and that I will write about them and share that information with the world, which is what they want to do to help other people understand them on a deeper level as well. So to me, it's still part of the spiritual journey, that I don't know everything yet that's ahead of me. I don't know how it's all going to happen, but I just have to have faith and trust, like trusting that my cat was going to come back when she said she would, that everything will fall into place, like you, that things will fall into place to get your dog. We just have that faith and trust, using our intuition. And opportunities happen, doors open when you're not expecting them to, and you just don't know who you're going to meet, who you're going to help, and how that all works around in the ripples of everything that happens in the universe. So I know that I only know a very tiny bit about reality. I've learned a lot more now since talking with the animals, because it's totally changed my understanding of reality. And I didn't know about reincarnation, and now I know a lot more, but I don't understand all of it yet. And I don't understand how the animal communication works when they put images in my head. It's some kind of thought transference, so they can talk to me verbally and I hear their voices in my head. But they can also show me pictures and images and little movie snippets, and they haven't explained how they do that. So obviously I don't need to know how. I just need to accept that they can. And that's what I cover in the mentorship program. We practice getting visual messages as well as verbal messages. And they can also send emotions and feelings. So if an animal's got a physical problem, I'm a clairsentient, so I can feel in my body. And so I just ask the animal to let me feel in my body what they're feeling in their body. And then I can pinpoint what's going on and then let their parents know. So one of the horses I spoke to let me feel that she had very intense hip pain in her left hip, and her parents didn't know, so they contacted the previous owner. Yes, she'd hurt her left hip a number of years ago, and obviously it was still causing her a problem. So then they were able to go and arrange care for her to remove that pain. Now, interestingly, that horse also volunteered that she'd had a twin before she was born, and the twin passed away. And apparently twins aren't very common with horses, and having both twins alive at birth is very uncommon. So she was actually dealing still with the grief of losing her twin years after she was born. And so I was able to tell her parents that so that they could arrange emotional support for her and help with her grief. And that's a big part of having the conversations as well, that some of our animals are stuck in this emotional turmoil, and they don't have to be. We can find out what's happening and we can ask what they want to happen, because they're very aware of medical approaches as well and what's happening in their bodies. And then they can live a much more fulfilled, happy life, because they're not being affected by what's happened to them in the past.
So beautiful. Thank you, Annie. I've loved what I've learned from you today. Can you just let everyone know where they can find you and connect with you, to work with you, or to get you to come and mentor them?
Yes, certainly. So I'm in Australia, but I connect with animals through photographs. So I just need people to email me photographs of their animals on their own, showing their faces with their eyes open and their names. I have to have a conversation with the animal and get their consent to have a conversation, because having a conversation is a free will choice for animals. I can't force them to have a conversation. But so far, no domestic animals have refused the opportunity to answer their parents' questions, but also pass on their own personal messages and guidance as well. So people can connect with me through my email address, which is chintuitive@bigpond.com, or they can send a message through my website, which is cosmicheartintuitive.com.au. Either way, you'll find me and I can send you information. So the conversations, you can have just one question. If you've got one burning question you want to ask your animal, I can offer you one question, or I have a 6-question package with a bonus question, and that can be shared across 2 animals, living or in spirit. And you just work out what questions you want to ask. Sometimes I will tweak them a bit so that you can get more information out of the answer. Or if you're interested in the telepathic animal communication mentorship program, I can send you the information on that as well. And you can also join my email newsletter list, and then you'll find out about upcoming events, including my free masterclasses. For people who are listening to this show, if they put she in the email subject, and are interested in the 6-question package or the mentorship program, then I will offer them a bonus of any of my 3 books posted to them, included as part of the package.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much for today. Thank you, Annie, for sharing your wisdom with me, and thank you for listening. If you found value in Annie's wisdom, I invite you to share this episode with others that you feel will benefit in the same way, and also to leave a review. If you want to find out more about me and my work, find me on my website, which is carolmaywhittick.com, CarolMaewhittick. Connect with me on Facebook and LinkedIn under Carol May Whittick, and on Instagram, Casmic, CAZMICK. So until next week and the next episode, take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.